Hey, Brian, can you hear us?
He comes back to Connecticut.
Hello?
We got you, Brian,
Okay.
thanks.
It's 7 o'clock, the regular monthly meeting of the Southbury Board of Finance is called to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All our regular members are here, so we don't seat alternates. Approval of the minutes of June 22nd. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Jack. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, John. Further additions or corrections? Anything? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? So ordered. Public comments? There's no public here. And if no one minds, we'll go to the first selectman's report. So Jeff, come sit down, join us. What is going on?
Well, I guess I figured you'd probably want to hear from me tonight about what's going on. You've heard numbers and rumors or talk. Right now, public means municipal, not the public we had, that's private. This is public and this is the municipality. We're currently looking at $91 million in damage, and we're looking at, and that doesn't include what damage is being assessed at the library. The reason that we don't know is because there's a chance that FEMA is going to make us build back resilient. There's a lot of talk about that, where FEMA, in the old days, remember tornado, you only got to build back to where you were. Today, they're talking about how it could be built back resilient, which we're all for. You hear it from the federal government, you hear it from FEMA, you hear it from everybody, and you hear it from me. What they might make us do in there, and that they may make us take all the mechanicals, electrical, all the technology, and move it out of the basement. So if that happens, that basement, the furnaces, the chiller, all the electrical, all the panels, all the power room, all that would have to be, may have to be elevated above flood stage. That will mean that if you're going to have to do that, you will probably have to build an addition onto the library to house all of that, because there's no room for the technology. The technology, the length of the, the deeper we peel the onion back about the problems, the deeper we get into possibly even having to rewire for technology the library, because right now it comes down into the basement, it's right there. You move it from here down to where the first selectman's office is to another, you have to rewire because you'll lose it. The cabling won't be enough. So we don't know what that is, and I had said in the beginning that I wouldn't be surprised if this doesn't go to 100 million, and I would say that that all has to be done. It would be 100 million. Number is not unfeasible. And how long will it take? Everybody's been asking about the library, and that question is something we don't know when it's going to open. It may require temporary heating and cooling, or temporary heating, but the other problem is we have to have technology. And if we can't get the technology where it's supposed to be, even if you heat it, you can't do that. So it's a little complicated, and we're, this is only, I think, the 5th week into the event. We're still operating under the emergency declaration. Why is that? We still have a problem with Old Waterbury Road, and we're trying to get Old Waterbury Road opened as we speak. I think Blake is working on that, amongst other things. We are very vulnerable. What fixes we've done are not repairs, they're Band-Aids. And I stress that because we have culverts with material in them that has to be removed. So the culvert that was this big around is now really only this big around. So that's gonna take some money and some time to get that opened, and we're extremely vulnerable, in my opinion, to even a 100-year storm, because nothing is operating the way it was designed to operate. It's been plugged, it's been, even the state's culverts. That's been what's going on. So I don't think we would have the capacity or the bandwidth to do $100 million worth of we just don't have the physical capability or the bandwidth to do that much. And if you went into 100 million, there would be things that would go wrong because you're not prepared to manage that scope of project from what we're used to even with help, even with engineers and people. That's a huge amount to do. So Dan and I have been talking, and we've yet to figure out a plan. You know, roughly thinking that if we were to pursue this, well, we're gonna have to pursue it, and depending on what money opens up from FEMA, what pockets of money they come up with that can be drawn on, or if not, as I've been careful to tell people, listen carefully to what I'm saying. FEMA reimburses you for money you spent. That means you have to spend the money in order to get the money. So how much that would depend on a number of things. What Blake feels that we can honestly take on every year. Just, you know, saying for numbers, if we were to propose 25 million in bonds to do $25 million worth of work the first year, if we can, and then roll it into the second year after, in anticipation of getting reimbursed at some point. That may be some, you know, I'll leave that to Dan. He's much smarter than me, trying to figure out what that manageable number means to the taxpayers. It's going to cost the taxpayers money, at least till we get reimbursed. So that's the bad news. On the good news side, Betsy's work and part of Betsy's work and everything we did during the tornado in the office, what we did, we received 100% of what we were entitled to from FEMA for the tornado. And I think it was a $75,000 administrative fee on top of it for administrating that. Looking back, we learned on the fly what we had to do. You've asked for technology here in Town Hall. We've asked for, you know, to be able to get technology and implement technology, and someone said they were quite surprised how much technology we actually have. You don't really realize it till you get into something like this. So we implemented Crisis Track, which the state hadn't implemented. As soon as Monday morning and things were going bad, Dan got in the office, we GL coded everything we spend for this, including overtime, police, everything is all GL coded. That's not in the normal operation. So we have that number of what we're spending on the emergency side. We also, because we did Crisis Track, we tracked everything from the very beginning, and we can cross-reference that data into FEMA. FEMA may showcase us as the model for doing emergency management, because we have so much technology, so much tracking that, and we gave them the back end of our GIS so they could look at our maintenance programs, and that's another big thing. We've been doing maintenance. So if you haven't been doing maintenance, they're gonna say, you should have been maintaining these things. We have the maintenance programs we've been maintaining. The comment was made to me by a federal FEMA agent when I was riding with him. He's like, you don't have any potholes here. I said, no. John Michaels goes crazy when he sees a pothole, and there's 100 people go down there and they fix it. But no, we don't have potholes. So the good news is we've maintained our infrastructure. We have a maintenance program. The other good thing is that everything that we've built during my administration has held. All the bridges, all the culverts, all the work held. And I think that is going to be what we're going to show as the model of why we should build it correctly. Not to the standards of 1950 or 60 or 70 when these were built, but build them to today's standards because they held. Even the new bridge that it was a day late from paving it. If it had been paved on Monday and it was a week later the storm, we would have been fine. It washed out some process. They put the process in, compacted, and they paved it that week. So everything that did, River Road held, much to the chagrin of some people who were watching, waiting, that design build held. And again, if we had not pushed to get River Road done and we stayed away from permitting from these federal agencies, got it done, proved it could hold, and got us on to the other bridge quicker. Had we not got onto that bridge and done it, completely shut it down and rebuilt it and had it open, we would have lost that work. It certainly would have lost the culvert that was there, or in the box, the structure, but the work, if had half been done without the proper wing walls, it never would have held. So by doing that, we didn't have a failure. So that's the good news. The hope is that the government is on and there's enough money to say, build it back the way it's supposed to be. And it's just gonna take some money and some time, and the primary right now focus, I believe, is reopening Old Waterbury Road. I think within the next couple of weeks, that probably will be will be opened enough so you can travel it, but not finished. And the library is the other thing that we have to focus on. As soon as we can get an idea of what they're gonna require to be done, and we can start putting. On the unfortunate side is that you have to adhere to your in your charter, what your bid requirements are, what your finance, what you have to do, and you have to make sure you abide by federal bid specs. So you have to do federal and local to make sure. So as I said, with some of these projects is, you're gonna have to hire someone. Once you know what you have to do, then you have to go out for RFP for someone to design the specifications to go out for the RFP for doing it. And in all reality, if I knew today what was gonna be required of the library basement and what FEMA was gonna require, then we could go out for the RFP for an architect or an engineering firm to design it, to go out to bid. But you can't do that until they tell you what you have to do. So that makes it frustrating. It frustrates because, you know, I like to move forward, but maybe too quickly. I like to push things. I know we need to do this, but it just breaks my heart to see the community without the cultural center that, and part of this is getting people back to as normal as you can. So anyway, that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Hey, question, do we know if we can get an interest-free loan from the state to
We
fund
don't
this?
know.
We don't know. I guess the question has been asked.
Well, it probably won't come from the state, it will come from the federal government.
Have we asked the federal government? Have we ask them, even though we don't have an answer yet, did we ask them if there's an interest-free loan?
They'll be coming in, John, you guys shut yours off. They'll be coming in, next week, next week or two. And I do believe, the rumor is that they are looking for, space to, have their headquarters or so. And they're going, this may be the regional area right here in Southbury, which means, which is good. And as soon as we know, yeah, we can ask, I mean, I don't think FEMA knows until the president declares. And we're waiting for the president to declare the disaster. Because that's going to make a difference on what gets paid, how it gets paid, or whether the private sector will get any help until we're waiting for the president. And, you know, all kidding aside, the president has a pretty big job, and I know we think we're priority one, but they're dealing with 96 other natural disasters across the country for different things. You know, there's those fires they have. So I'm sure it will be declared. It's just when it is declared, and then we will know what we can have available. So we're waiting for the president. Dan did that number.
Well, let's just say, you know, you said 91, and it.
I'd rather Dan said this than me.
If it was 100 million, if you borrowed it in bond anticipation notes, it cost you 3.5 million. If you had to borrow $100 million, it cost you $3.5 million a year. And if we didn't get reimbursed for 7 years, that's $20 million in interest just on the borrowing. And that's 100% of our town budget. 100% of the town budget. So. we
time
need-
matters.
We need that interest-free loan over 7 years. Granted, it's only over 7 years, but that's just an awful lot of money. Okay,
So to that, because we did this rodeo one other time, which I thought was a tremendous, lot of money and a big cleanup, that's a walk in the park compared to what this is. So we had a test run in the tornado. We also dealt with COVID. The good news is, as I said, the technology that has been pushed is really making us look good to the federal government, that we have our act together. They took a look at a random sampling of what we have for losses. I don't know, Dan, I think 25% of what we listed in municipal or something they looked at. And they said, you're accurate. Your estimates are in line, and you know what you're doing. And they were here that, I would say hour-wise, less than a day they were in and they were out. They're like, we need to go to these other towns because they had trouble uploading our volume of pictures. They had to do a Google Drive thing, and you couldn't just upload it to them because there was so many pictures, so much information. So on the good side, we did that. It was interesting how the technology works. When someone said about not charging for the transfer station, I said, we can't waive the fees. It's true we couldn't waive the fees because the technology did not allow us to waive a fee because it all funnels down to there, and our permitting fees are way up because you can't issue a permit without a payment. And if you've made the payment, he has to see it. So we had to get the company to modify the software or do whatever they do. I don't know, Dan did it. Because we technically couldn't, it was on a technical side, if you wanted to, you couldn't because the technology's in place to make sure it doesn't happen. So we got that fixed and we took care of that.
But the key, I'm going back to John's point, so when we had the tornado, what was the time to reimbursement?
Betsy, you,
It was 3 months to get the declaration from the president, and then it was, when did we start getting that money? A year plus?
I think it was just about 2 years now.
Yeah.
Okay, so our planning, we got to think interest times 2 years, right? Basically, to John's point, you know, so,
and there's no guarantee that they're gonna give you the 100%.
well, I get that,
So
but I
just
mean,
make sure that's clear.
well, I know, but I mean, as Board of Finance, we got to put some kind of slot in there and prep for that somehow. And again, to John's point, if we can get zero interest somehow, I love that, right? But if we can't, I think we got to put a slot in there, like a guess about how long and how much interest it is.
We will keep you all posted.
So,
That, when we know something, we'll share it. I guess that's the
Well, I agree with that, but I feel like, I totally agree with that. I'm just maybe stating the obvious, but I think in our budget, we obviously have to put some sort of number in there, don't we?
John, if I may,
Well, I mean, what do we do with the tornado?
The tornado, we were able to move funds from unassigned fund balance because the total reimbursement was $1.8 million. So it was a lot less than what we're looking at right now.
Okay.
We have, for this pittance here, the million, 2 million, we've got an undesignated fund balance and a fund balance that'll cover that. So we're okay. How to reconstitute that, what do we do about the things that it was earmarked for, those are all.
Oh, well, I get that, but he just said 25 million next year, didn't he?
Oh, well. Okay.
A long way from that.
Yeah, a long way.
so
Yeah.
So the good thing is, Dan kind of gave me a number, and I forget what it was. The difference between AA2 rating and AAA rating equates to how much interest?
Over the life, it would be closer to about $3 million, Jeff.
So increasing our
About $3 million
bond,
over the life of
What life? What life?
the 20-year or 30-year bond payment.
Oh, the life of the bond,
Yeah.
okay, sure.
so the good news, I guess if there's good news, and secondly, the ability to be able to bond, if we have to, the fact that at least we have the ability to bond 100 million. Some municipalities, we always run lean and careful, and we always keep our debt down because who knew this would be? But the ability to do it, some municipalities are using ARPA money to do the repairs because they can't pull money from other places. And if you just paid the ARPA money and used it, what would you do now? So the good news is that if there's good news, at least we have the ability to get the money to do it.
Jeff, I think we could certainly, we could talk about all the maybes and what-ifs and stuff we don't know all night long. We're going to ask you if you could be sure to attend each of our meetings and keep, for the next few months, and keep us
I think
updated
there's,
on all this as it develops, because it's going to may affect our budget, it may not. Don't know, but we'd like to be as on the front edge of whatever the economics are and the timing of all this as soon as we can, okay?
yeah, like I said, everybody's asking, and again, it was 3 months till they declared the disaster the last time. It could take another 2 months from now, would be 3 months before I have any answer as to what's going to happen. But I certainly will comment and let you know. But I want to manage expectations of the timing, because there's all this talk out there, like for the foreseeable future, the library will be closed. What does that mean? It's going to open again, but I don't know if that's a full construction job. That could take a year, if that's what is going to be required for us to be reimbursed. That could be what it is. I don't know.
Understood.
John,
Any-
just one.
Any questions of Jeff? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I have a question. Is there a plan to ask the state or for our representatives to ask the state for any sort of, whether it be zero interest loan or grants or anything?
Till the
Any sort of help?
president declares the disaster, we will not have an answer to that.
But they had a grant program already put in place for businesses, and that had nothing, they didn't wait for any additional disaster declaration, because they might at least ask.
So Kim, just so you know, when Representative Hayes came, both Jeff and I, we explained to her and her people that were here that what it would cost the taxpayers of Southbury if they had to upfront and pay this money. And we both mentioned to her that we didn't ask, but we mentioned it might be a good idea for the federal government to look into some sort of a zero interest or zero payment loan for 3 years till we got reimbursed from FEMA.
Well, I heard that we're planning on asking the federal government or waiting for the federal government to see if there will be something open up, but my question is more state
All
oriented.
the money,
I mean, Sandy got a lot of help from New Jersey
all the
when
money,
they were.
all the money comes
had
through the
problems.
state, through the federal government, though. So everything that we're gonna be reimbursed is from the federal government.
So how did the state do the $25 million in grants for businesses?
I don't know.
I don't know where, they took that from a bucket someplace, they turned, and that is, I don't think that's even a drop in the bucket for what they're gonna need.
Sure, I don't think anybody says that the $25 million is going to cover 100% of expenses, but it could help.
But it probably was a bucket of, of money that they had someplace that they released from the state.
I was just asking if anybody was going to ask the state, so I got my answer.
Waiting for the president to determine what level this rises to and whether they're gonna, what buckets of money are they gonna release to the municipalities? And it'll all be triggered on whether they declare the disaster in Washington.
And I will say, you know, Representative Hayes was very, very interested in talking about that. So it wasn't like she was like, there's no way that that's gonna happen. She was very, you know, she was here and you could tell she was willing to look at all options for the town.
Okay. Yes, John, Mr. Riley?
Just one question for Dan and Jeff. You have Dan had on the to-do list for some time, and you've talked tonight about having to operate regarding your own procurement policy. You've developed and circulated a draft of a revised policy. Would adopting that policy be helpful, and adopting the changes that you have suggested be helpful to us going forward rather than just leaving that old policy in place?
I think for now, John, it's probably okay to stay with the old policy because the changes weren't that different, especially with the dollar value that we're talking about. We probably will need some help from the Board of Selectmen as far as waiving some of the policies with some of the emergency things that we have to do. But Jeff was, you know, he's been on board with that and. been
Yeah,
pushing.
and a separate prep thing, what about, are we all prepped for bonding if we need to?
We are. We can, you know, we can borrow up to $445 million.
Okay.
That's our bonding limit right now.
Okay, Jeff, thank you very much. Yeah, we will move on.
I just want to say something here, though, before I go. I've heard a lot of talk out in the community and different talking. You had a group of employees in the town of Southbury that pulled together and did work that was not in their descriptions, helping each other. If it hadn't been for that, it would have been much more difficult. The FEMA people told our emergency management director they have never seen a municipality and employees work together so well. They've never seen it. There was no rifts or fighting. There was no, I don't do that. That's not my, the people from the library, we don't have the library, but they came right in. They're taking on other duties that need to be done on administrative sides. And the employees stepped up for getting this to where it is. And your technology that was implemented, though not inexpensive, puts us far ahead of a lot of the other municipalities in the state, because it's almost like it's calm, but it's not. But it's also very structured, very thorough, very regulated, and you can be very confident on these numbers and what you're seeing.
Okay, we're going to move on. New business, 6A, appropriation of $1,005,000 for the emergency expenditures. Is that going to cover it?
This was a list that was given to my office from the Public Works Department, and all this really is to get these roads shored up so they're passable. This isn't a fix, a long-term fix. It's really temporary repairs to get everything up and running. The Board of Selectmen, by charter, was able to declare, once they declared an emergency, was to appropriate $500,000. We went through that fairly quickly, so this is an additional amount of funding that's needed to get these roads, like Old Waterbury Road. It's not gonna be fixed, but at least to the point where it's passable.
Or is this a motion for $1 million more than the original 500,000?
It's a motion for 505,000
Or
more.
it's for 505 on top of
On
the
top of the
original
million.
500?
Yep.
Thank you.
Procedurally, Chair will entertain a motion to approve this resolution. Is there such a motion? Mr. Riley, is there a second?
Second.
Everybody wants to second it. There's almost unanimous consent.
It's fast.
Kathy, thank you. Now, under discussion, for sure, this just gets the roads open. Does this get Waterbury Road open, we think?
We have $250,000 in there, and they think, Blake thinks that will get it open, but not totally repaired. It will get it
Well,
open.
it'll get it, emergency services, ambulances, and residents.
But I'm presuming this won't open Oldfield,
Yeah, what about
It won't open
Oldfield?
Oldfield. Oldfield's not on here, no.
right?
Yeah.
Or George's Hill?
Nope.
Are there any
What about-
other?
We
What
have a
about
list.
67?
Well,
What about
list of them.
67 near Community Park?
We have $150,000 for library cleanup. That's just to clean the basement.
Is that in this?
That's in this number. $250,000 for Old Waterbury Road construction. $20,000 to have an engineer go check the bridges that were affected by this to see where we could be in that. $200,000 for DPW materials to repair the roads as we are. $100,000 for the Bucks Hill pipe and road stabilization. $30,000 for Scout Road culvert stabilization, $30,000 for Plaster House Road culvert stabilization, $20,000 for West Flat Hill Road culvert stabilization, $20,000 for Stilson Road culvert stabilization.
So but what's not in it? Oldfield Road's not in it?
Oldfield's not in there. Now, Oldfield, prior to this storm, we were approved for 50% funding for that bridge, Oldfield Bridge,
Culverts.
the culvert,
That was 26, scheduled for 26?
scheduled for 26, yes.
Yeah, so that was
And-
already in our reconstruction.
And what's going on 67 at Community Park?
That's state.
That's all
state,
state?
yeah.
Okay.
What'd they say, Jeff, October? Is the state on that one, I think they said?
Yeah.
I think they said October for that.
I know what the problem on 67 is, there's no bottom.
Yeah.
They're trying to find out how to put a bridge in there with no bottom.
If you actually drive Community House Road and look over at the road, you can see there's no bottom there.
It's called Jeremy Swamp, and there's no bottom.
Yeah, I went past there today.
We've actually built a bridge. We've built East Flat Hill Road was a bridge built with no bottom with friction pile driving. I think they just need to do the engineering.
That's the work up there.
So, but when you go to the town meeting, is there anything else that somebody's gonna say, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Anything else that I don't know about that?
I think our focus, Tom, or, Public Works and even our Emergency Management Director, the focus right now is to get at least the roads passable. And then we have to look at what the big fix is gonna be, and that's gonna require a lot more funding.
Can I ask a question? Where's the first 500 coming from?
The first 500 is coming from unassigned
From where?
fund balance.
Did the Board of Finance have a resolution for that too? It's not
No,
here.
because the Board of Selectmen, through emergency, is allowed to appropriate $500,000 when they declare an emergency.
Okay, so they,
charter. They
it's
declared an emergency and they
appropriated,
appropriated $500,000.
it doesn't need Board of Finance approval?
No.
Okay, fine. Okay, we have, this money's in the bank. We will rearrange the budget and where we're gonna use it for to begin with, and more on that over the next few months. Are you ready for the question?
One
Jack,
more
yes.
question. Of the, I don't know whether it's the 505 or the $1,005,000, how much of that is going for funding of overtime, additional equipment rentals and things for our own staff?
Well-
And how much of that is going to contractors?
Right now in overtime, we have about $48,000.
Yeah.
And probably, I would estimate the bulk of it's going to contractors, the rest of it.
Okay. As you think about the list of cleaning out the.
Yeah, because we are utilizing more contractors on some of these culvert jobs.
Yeah.
Um,
We'll never pave Grandview and Ridgeview if,
So this, all
Grandview and Ridgeview are actually in the road program for this year.
no, I know that, and they're half done.
So,
Yeah.
so the road work is all design build
Yeah.
by us.
Anyway,
Anything else, Jack?
nope.
Nope. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Ordered. Next item, please.
Thanks, Jeff.
You're welcome, Jeff. It's,
Next item, I think, was the audit report.
okay, draft of the audit report and financial statements. Dan?
Sent out the draft of the audit report. If anyone would like, I have a copy, but there's also, I can get it electronically to everyone. I sent it out to everyone. We had another pretty solid audit year. There's no adjusting journal entries, no comments from the auditors. They were here for 3 days and we're totally done. We're gonna issue, we'll probably be the first town in Connecticut to issue again this year.
We used to get our audit in December. This is phenomenal. There's nothing for us to do, I guess. Well,
I had a couple of questions.
once it gets signed, we'll acknowledge receipt. Why don't we do this? Why don't we have this available in the fiscal office for the next month? And
Okay.
then,
I had a couple questions
Sure.
for reading it, that
Sure.
we maybe go through. Just, I guess, page 27, page 27. And these are probably just questions about the end of your report that I finally read it carefully. Oh, wait. Let's see.
close.
27 is deposits and investments,
It was like,
right there. That's 27.
What's your, Tom?
I was looking, what was something that showed net change of something, like, I thought it was page,
Is it a
maybe
financial or
37,
words?
go 37, sorry.
37.
37.
20,
Page 27 in the
37.
audit or
It's
page
the capital-
27 of the PDF file?
Page 37 of the
This is
PDF.
capital
yes.
assets, Tom, is that what you're talking about?
It showed, it was kind of compared net change year over year, a bunch of things. Yeah, I think this is it, yeah. So, where was it? Anyway, I saw that, in like, investment earnings went from 1.8 million to 2.9 million, like from year over year change.
Yeah, that was our stiff rate. Our stiff rate was higher this year than last year.
And that was all the stiff
It was
rate?
pretty much all the stiff rate and part of the IPOC investments, because we were up in those, all of
Oh,
those as well.
okay. All right, so we made like 1.1 million more this year?
Yeah, we did really well as far as stiff rate and IPOC even, we did well this year.
Okay. On page 53, there was, again, this is kind of something,
This is our budget versus actual.
that was just showing, actually,
This is our
and
budget.
everything was favorable. And-
Everything was
and if
favorable.
I were Dick Hill, if I changed my inner Dick Hill, I'd say, did that just mean we didn't budget very well? Or is somebody like playing funny games with, like, everything is favorable, right?
No, if you look historically on this budget versus actual report, we're pretty much in line where we are every year.
Okay.
We do budget conservatively in some of the lines. But yeah, for example, like energy, energy was our electricity, and we renegotiated some rates last year, so we were favorable about $160,000. And labor-related, 291 was, we ended up getting a better deal after budget. Art Mulligan and myself renegotiated with the insurance company to get a reduced rate on our medical insurance.
I think one of the reasons there are no overages is
We're not allowed to have overages either by charter.
can't have them according to the charter.
Okay.
So we do
So we work
transfers.
to kind of make sure as we go through the year to make sure that we're
When
kind
we're
of.
going over, we transfer money.
Yeah, we
You
always.
can't,
One of the requests I'm gonna ask for the charter revision this year is to allow not the total line, but the individual in the budget lines to go over, so when we budget next year, we know where we go over and where we don't go over, so we can move money into the right lines.
Okay. And page 43,
The original budget as well as the revised.
Yeah,
43,
if you look, it's in there.
Dan, to that point, you know, as Jack was saying, if we're going over, as we realize we're gonna go over, we start to, we transfer it and move it. But can we not track that? You
We
know?
do. If you look at the budget versus actual and even the monthly I send out, we have an original and then a final, and the final is after the transfer in. So the original will be different. For example, every line will be different because we transfer salary raises after the fact. But if we do transfer it, there'll be an original, what was actually approved budget, and then the final is what was approved via transfers.
And you want, I just wanna make sure I
What
understood you.
we
You
do
want-
is our budget, Steve, is the top line. So like, let's say for finance has one number. But in that line, there's 5 different lines, and one of those lines could, right now, we're not allowed to draw any of those individual lines.
Okay, so that's what I wanna make
So
sure I
I'd like to
understood.
I'd like to be
Right.
allowed to draw those, if we do, draw them over, so next year we budget, say, oh, we were way over here, but way under here, so maybe we need to flip that.
And the top line is fine, but
Yes,
in business, the charter requires that the department level is the legal budget. So within a department, it goes all over the place.
We did that years ago with the Board of Finance. You guys actually approved us to do that, I think it was 2 years ago, but Jason on the Board of Selectmen said, no, if you read the charter, it's actually individual line by line, because my argument was just the top line, but it wasn't, it's the individuals. So I'm gonna actually ask the Charter Revision Commission to allow us to go over, not on the top line, but the individuals, so when we budget, we know where those differences are, so we can fix them.
Yeah, in business, most businesses, once they fix the budget, they don't change the budget. So overs and unders are always variances against what you thought, not against a constantly moving number.
Yeah. The good thing this
This
year,
is
other
government.
than salary adjustments, we didn't have that many transfers. I think we had about 5.
Anything else, Tom?
this page, I was trying to reconcile the 187 there to, is it reconciled to our actuarial reports about for the pension? Like, so 187 total participants.
Yeah, what we do, Tom, we give the actuaries, they give the GASB 68 report to the auditors, which has this, and I could forward that to everyone. But Jen is gonna be here in October to go over that report as well.
Okay. And the forward actuary report, or
The full actuarial
the
report.
one that we'll see in November?
Yep.
Okay. And so this is all the pension, including the police?
That's including the police, yes.
Right, so 102 people are already, does this mean 110 people are out of the plan, kind of retired or something? I mean, the numbers I never quite understand exactly.
102 people are receiving benefits,
Yeah,
are getting right now, are getting
yeah,
that
so
pension
they
benefits.
retired, they're
They're
gone.
retired, yes.
What's the 41 about? It's like the people that titled to benefits but not receiving.
Those are
them.
people that are eligible but have not chosen to accept their pension yet.
Okay, and is it,
They're deferring it, yeah.
and why would they do that? Is that, can you give me for instance, like,
Yeah.
I mean, is there a good reason why people would do that? I don't know.
It
Okay.
could be that people, our pension is written that if you retire when you're 55, you can't collect till you're 65, or you lose 2%,
Oh,
a
so
half a
is
percent
there
a
some-
year for every year
There's
up to
something
65.
economic advantageous
Yeah,
to
so
wait.
there's some people that have retired technically, but they technically can't, they can collect, but they would take a penalty by collecting before 65.
But they're not part of the, again, we were going back and debating about how active the plan is, right, really? And so of the real the real only active members that haven't retired is the 44, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And do you know how much of that is police?
I think the police are 20 of that.
Half by half of it?
Yeah, 20.
Okay. So we still have, I mean, we had this
Because
debate
most
at
police
9 o'clock.
officers work till retirement and then start taking, their plan is a little different. They could take it after 20 years of service.
Mhm. Okay, all right. Okay, good, thanks. That's all.
Okay, let's do this.
So as far as the retirement goes, I'm sorry to continue on this. I just wanted to double check. The 41, they are no longer accruing benefits of the pension, right?
No, we
Their
don't
pension-
do a COLA in our pension, so they're not accruing anything. It's just whatever their highest 60 months would be, based
Okay.
on the highest 60-month pay.
Okay, we'll have the minutes reflect that we received the draft of the report today. If anyone, anyone wants to look, in addition to Tom, who got an advance peek, if anybody wants to go down to the fiscal office and look at it, we're going to address other questions next month, and we'll officially receive and report it next month. Is that okay, Dan?
That's
You
fine.
think?
I just have something I'd like to find out more about, which you can let me know offline, is our vacation and sick time, what we're looking at for liabilities there.
Okay. Our main liability is, for the audit report, we have to put vacation and sick time in there, but the town doesn't pay out any sick time when people leave, so there's really no liability there. Our vacation liability is you're allowed to carry what you can accrue. So I could put together a number, Kim, of what that would look like.
Yeah. Okay, and, but for the sick time, since they're accruing without cap, somebody could be out for.
We do cap. We cap at, I forget the number. There is a cap on
Okay.
our sick time.
All right, and how many days per year is that?
It depends on the level that you're at, but I think it comes to, is it 12 days a year, I think?
Okay,
I can get you that number also. I don't know it off the top of my head, but I can get it for you, Kim.
thank you.
I think it's 12, though.
Okay.
Okay, next item?
We do that, Kim, as a short-term. We don't do short-term disability, so that is our short-term disability policy.
Okay, Trails Grant.
So the Trails Grant, as we sent that out in July, and hopefully everyone had a chance to look at it. The only thing we need is just a resolution to accept it. And it's $800,000 from the state, so we can do get started on the trail from New Wheeler Road up through the village, up to the property that the town owns, up behind Heritage Crest.
So we have received,
You've received it.
have we
Yep.
received all the documents about what
Yes.
it's about?
Yep.
Has anyone in the Board of Finance looked at that yet?
I think
I don't,
people did. We had a conditional based upon what you guys had seen, approval, but then we just sent this out for the meeting. But I can resend it out to everyone if they'd like to take a look at it.
why
But
don't we
this is
make it
basically the
available?
grant right here.
Why don't we make it, is that the full, well, is that all the terms and conditions of the
I
grant?
think those are the terms and conditions there, John.
Who's gonna execute the grant? And if we get the money, I mean, how are we gonna do it?
It's gonna run through Public Works.
Okay, and do they have time to mess around with this now?
Our Public Works is amazing what they can, but, I mean, they're the best Public Works department in the state of Connecticut. I mean, so I think they can, yes. So they're ready.
Okay. I mean, Blake's not gonna scream at me, why are you giving me this money?
I'm not,
Just don't make it the beginning of the Middlebury Public Works Department.
if you guys, is it critical that we do this tonight? Can we accept, why don't we put it on the agenda again for next month?
Sure.
I think we have a little grant review committee, Mr. Riley, I think, and myself are on it. I don't know who else. I'd like to make sure all the i's are dotted and t's and crossed on it.
I mean, I think that from my standpoint, we would depend on staff anyway. And as far as I'm concerned, if Dan says that his review shows that none of these, we would be asking, are any of these conditions detrimental? And that was the concern we always had about accepting it. And I think if we then just said that we would accept this based upon the recommendation of staff that these conditions are all reasonable and we can meet them, okay, I'm okay with that. The old way was we could not even apply for these things, so they have to come back. There will be a charter revision proposed to say that we cannot accept a grant until we approve it. Okay, if staff has looked at this, and I know there's a time deadline for accepting these things, I'm comfortable with accepting the recommendation of staff that there's nothing onerous and no problem
Yeah.
with these accepting this, and we can do it.
We looked at it, John, and it's a pretty, it's an 80-20 grant from the state. We've done these before, and there's nothing really, I would say in there that's harmful to the town, other than having to come up to 20%. But other than that, we do have funding available for that. But I didn't see anything in there that would cost us any more than what the grant proposal was for, or anything that was harmful financially.
Deadlines for spending the money?
There's not, no.
Because, I
that-
mean, as a member of the board, if I, as a layman sitting here, read those restrictions and conditions, not working for the town and not being involved in this, I would have no idea which way to go. And I think if Dan and staff, and especially Public Works, who would implement a lot of this, comes back and said, yes, these are reasonable conditions, we can meet them, I'm comfortable with saying yes to this.
Why is Michael so skittish about this? When we got a grant for hundreds of thousands of dollars to redo the
The old town hall, right?
the old town hall and turn it in, no, the old library, and turn it into parks and senior center. It said the grant buried in the things was for 10 years, you can't use this for anything except the senior center. So we were not allowed to have Parks and Rec in there. And luckily, we got someone to look the other way. Well, that's not always going to be the case, and that's fodder for all sorts of mischief. So I'm just very skittish about all the fine print that exists on this stuff. But if Dan and John are sure that there's none of that nonsense in here,
Yeah, I didn't.
you're sure?
Pretty sure. I looked at it. There's
Okay,
nothing in
well,
there that-
then, John, I think John would probably make a motion to accept the grant.
I have a question.
Sure.
Something I'd like to understand next time it's presented is, that would be building a bit of infrastructure. And infrastructure needs maintenance. So I'd like to understand what the plan is for maintenance, and then how that's gonna impact our budget as we
Yeah,
move forward.
What we would do, Kim, is we would put it like all of other town assets, we'd put it in our infrastructure plan, and it would be part of probably the parks, part of that infrastructure plan, and how we maintain it, and have some money in there every year for that.
Yeah, that's exactly my question, is how much is it gonna cost to maintain on top of what we're
We
already
don't know
spending
what it's gonna
for our
cost
stuff?
fully yet, because as we get into it, we have to know what the materials, are we gonna do a hard surface or a soft surface and things like that, so that we're not 100% sure yet what it would cost us, the maintenance, but I could probably get a rough estimate. I can talk to Blake for next meeting and have that for you.
Yeah, like I imagine that there's some basic estimate for cost per mile to
Yep.
maintain per year would be interesting, plus also building in the cost of replacing things as their lifetime comes up would be
Absolutely.
wonderful
Yep.
to know. Thank you.
That's what we do. Of course, there are 23 sections in this plan.
There's
How many
23
sections is this?
This will cover the first one.
One section. Hopefully, the other 22 aren't as expensive as this one, but we'll see. Okay, motion by Mr. Riley to Board of Finance approve the grant. Is there a second? Thank you, Tom. Any further discussion? Thank you, Brian. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Opposing? Opposition? None heard? Abstaining? So ordered. Funding for annuitized pension. Anything more, Tom? Have we?
We discussed this again extensively at IPOC at the August meeting, and everybody we talked to, both, our advisor and the actuary, thinks it doesn't make much sense. So you saw the numbers up there of the people in the plan, right? As long as there's like 20 people still in the active piece of our plan, they don't think insurance, I mean, first of all, we'd have to clearly have to split the police and the non-police to get, to do it. And as long as there's 20 people in there that are still active members, the thinking is it would be hard to get an insurance company to really pay good attention to it, right? So secondarily, we talked a bit about taking okay, so relative to that, yes, I think we've sort of decided it really isn't a very feasible thing to do right now.
We scratched the itch, we've studied it for months and months, we've talked to all the people that we can talk to about it, and it's not something we should do, so we will put it to rest.
At least at this time, sure.
Certainly at this time, a couple of years from now, we'll see.
And just in support of what Tom had said, that we did this study, and Tom arranged with our pension consultant to do the study at the time when interest rates were hitting their peak, and when annuitization would have been at the cheapest point in a long period of time. And even at the peak of rates, which now the Fed is probably going to cut by 0.5 point tomorrow or Wednesday, it will become more and more and more expensive to annuitize this, so.
Well, and already the market's anticipated that, so we're kind of the horse is out of the barn now in some ways,
Yeah.
So, yes, so I don't think, and I think we sort of decided this last time, but we had a big extensive discussion at IPOC about it, and I just don't think right now we want to pursue this.
Okay, that one's to rest. Betsy, you can take it off the list. Grant provisions in the town. I think in the last minutes, we asked Dan to check what we thought was the right thing to do, and in the minutes it said change approval from application
yeah,
to acceptance.
I
Is
think
that,
it's changing the wording to acceptance.
that should do it?
Yeah, that
Um,
should take care of.
Will you
everything here.
communicate that to the Charter
I will.
Commission?
Yes,
Make sure they
I
get it?
absolutely will, yes.
Thank you. Okay, next item. First Selectman, we had it. Dan, what do you got for us?
So mine will be quick. Pool, if anyone's been over to Ballantyne Park, you probably see they are well underway of taking out the old pool. We spoke to the construction company. We are pretty much on schedule. If weather permitting, the new pool will be open Memorial Day weekend next year. Weather permitting.
Your lips to God's ears.
But they are well ahead of taking out the old pool. They took out all the old mechanicals. I think they took out part of the shell, and they're moving along fairly rapidly.
days of no rain
Yeah.
forecast.
Yeah. We're hoping they can pour the first pour late October, early November. And then the final pour, which will be the gutter, to put the gutter in and hold the gutter in, won't be until March or April.
Any questions of Dan about things other? That's, okay.
I have some questions.
Yes, Kim?
So we got approved for a local capital improvement grant,
Yes.
right? Has that been spent yet, or?
Yeah, we got $195,000 for LoSiP, and we put that toward one of our road projects.
Okay. And then it doesn't look like the STEEP grant has been opened up for this year
The
yet.
STEEP grant has not been opened up yet, and we just received I believe the contract for last STEEP grant, which was to do the fixes at the transfer station.
Yeah.
So we haven't started that yet because the state was a little slow, or DEP was a little slow getting us the contract.
Yeah, if the STEEP grant does open up, can we, is it possible to consider putting some of our repairs in there?
Yeah, we certainly can, if it's available, and depending upon how FEMA's gonna, if FEMA will reimburse us based upon getting funding from other sources or not.
Right.
I want to remind people about the LOSIP and the STEEP and these renewing and continuing state grants. The town's, I don't know if it's a policy, the town's practice has been to budget our future needs. So when the state comes out with these grants, that is not free money, that is not something extra. That is built into our budget to fund things that are in our long-term comprehensive plan for the town. And as an administrative matter, the fiscal office matches something we've got planned with this grant. So there, in most communities, without a long-term capital asset plan, they have to wait for a STEEP or a LOSIP grant to do something. So we do it entirely differently. We do a lot of things different here. I just want to stick that in there, but remember that. Okay, financial statement review. This is a consent agenda item. It'll be approved as such unless someone would like to pull something from here that I have some questions on. Hearing nothing, we will accept the treasurer's report. I think, transfers are next?
Yeah, one transfer, this is the annual raise and adjustments transfer. This year, the board approved a 3% raise for the employees, so this is every town department.
Was there a list attached to that?
There it is there, that's every department.
And some of them look like they're a lot more than
Some are
a
a lot more.
3%
Yeah,
increase.
for
Can you comment, not specifically, but the concept of why some are so much more?
Some are higher because as we hire new employees, they're coming in at a higher rate, and that's why they are higher than other departments. Fire marshal and tax collector, there was a few in there.
Okay, is anything, pull a list up just a little more? Are we seeing it all, Bets?
There's more down at the bottom.
Okay. All right, Chair will entertain a motion to approve this, approve the transfers between these accounts. Such a motion? Kathy, is there a second?
Sure.
Jack, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? So ordered. Next item.
It's liaisons.
Okay. We forgot
cell
future
tower.
business. Oh, my goodness. Cell
So
tower.
Cell tower, I had an interesting conversation with a company that might be interested in working with us and for the cell tower that's up in the purchase. We just have to spend a little bit of money to go up 20 feet. And as we go up 20 feet, we might be able to put some carriers up there and get some rent. Now, this company, what they do is they market it, and then they take a piece of the rent from us. So it's like 1% of the rent, kind of similar to what we're doing over at the transfer station.
Could you put a fence around what we might have to put in and what we might get out without
Let-
committing to
Yeah.
it?
Last time we looked at it, it was about $20,000 to $25,000 to raise the tower up. And we're getting about $160,000 in revenue from the transfer station.
So we might have a one-time cost of at least $25,000 plus inflation since we got
Yeah.
that price. One-time cost, and then we might be getting as much as, 160
160.
a year for a long time.
Better return than solar panels.
We should look into that.
Yeah,
I think-
Dan, just a question on that. I've been told, and I've read, and I've actually experienced, that there are some places in town that are dead areas.
Our
as
neighborhood is
far-
one, John.
And where we live is one of those.
Yeah.
With raising that cell tower,
I don't know if that would, where it's located, if it would help us in our
Okay.
neighborhood, but it would help people up in the purchase. that don't have service.
Okay.
Yeah, Joe Ruggiero did an interesting thing. He went around town with 5 different carriers' cell phones in his car and mapped every area that was not available to cell service. It was interesting to see.
Is there a report on that?
There is, and yeah, he did a whole report. I could send it to you, Tom.
Oh, okay, good.
It was interesting to see the areas where we actually have no, like where John and I live, we have no service with Verizon whatsoever. 0.
Okay, reports. Tom, IPAC?
Yeah, we had a meeting in August, like I said. Besides what we said about before about the annuity, we also looked at maybe de-risking the pension fund, and increasing the allocation to bonds. But we, again, talked extensively about that, but with the activity, again, we decided not to do that and leave the current allocation more or less as is. Just, again, because the pension fund is still in a pretty active state in terms of timing of when the payments are due. I guess if we, Board of Finance, felt strongly that we wanted to de-risk more, then IPAC will consider that, but again, I think we discussed it extensively and decided not to do that.
Anything
and
else?
Returns, well, the returns, the annual returns are in. So for the pension fund, we made 10.7 last year. For the reserve fund, and reserve fund, we made 7.2%. That's about 150 basis points above stiff, right? For the library fund, we made 10.5%. The 10.7 will go against a roll-off of like 5%, so we'll probably pick up like on an average, in the average, the actual rate will pick up 1 or 2% in terms of the thing. That's probably, is that reflected in the?
Yeah, in our 5-year smoothing, as we look into what our funding will be, we're going to be dropping a 5% and adding a 10%. So that should help out in next year's what our actual report deposit would be.
The weird thing about that, though, is that, so we've got one coming up, that's the 21 return,
Yeah.
it's like 20x%, and then we got one coming up that's minus 21x%. And so when the plus 20x wears off, we're gonna feel the pain, and then when the minus 20 rolls off, then we're gonna feel good again, so it's kind of a funny game. So, but.
Anything else from IPAC?
No.
No? Janet, Board of Education?
There's a couple of follow-ups from last year. The region continues to object to the State Department of Ed's requirement that they purchase a K through 3 reading curriculum to the tune of $700,000. This was based on a threshold the state set that the region and a lot of other schools didn't meet, but didn't miss by that much. And so they, along with the other schools, are objecting to that. There's been no resolution on that. But they did budget $100,000 in this year's budget toward that $700,000. The other open issue is the, quote, menstrual equity in Connecticut public schools. It's an unfunded mandate that I talked about last year. And Region 15, along with many other schools, is still awaiting further guidance on this issue. So that hasn't been funded. And lastly, the internal audit. The presentation date is to be determined. This is the audit for 23-24. I am told that Mr. Martino is, and the auditor are still going back and forth on some items. So that's the status of that. It's not on any of their agendas for this month's meeting, and I did verify that with the chair. Coming up is the teacher's contract this year. So watch for that this fall.
Oh, boy.
And
Any follow-up? As a follow-up to that, This year, again, I volunteered to be the Board of Finance's representative to the teacher's contract. Happens every 3 years, seems like it just happened. It's going exactly the way it always goes. Nothing new, nothing exciting. Our mission there is to observe, and all I can do is report. I can't tell you what goes on, naturally, but I can tell you that the school board is thorough, they're diligent, they're not being rolled over, they're paying attention, they get good legal advice, and they know what they're doing. So, I guess that's
And
about
they
it.
have limited power.
Very, very limited, very limited. It all ends up how it's gonna be mediated and arbitrated, and that forces them all to the middle every time. But we should go because it's the biggest part of our biggest budget, so. And also, Pompey, the special committee for Pompey Elementary and Gainfield Elementary Schools is starting to meet. We got some 3-hour meetings coming up in the next month or so. I wish someone else had taken that on, but that's okay. Insurance Working Group. John, I don't think we haven't met, nothing to do? Nothing to do. Bridges and Roads, Jack?
I have not met with the group because I was out of town for 3 months. But River Road opened ahead of schedule. Birches Brook opened ahead of schedule.
And within budget?
And within budget. The annual road agenda continues to proceed with some interruptions because of the flood, but they are working on it while they're making all of these temporary repairs.
Wow.
Which, I mean, if you drive around town, every time you see an orange cone on the side of the road, somebody's been working there or somebody's gonna work there. Because the shoulder was flooded.
Damaged.
Maybe it goes deeper than just the obvious shoulder. That's why this is estimated right now at $91 million. There are a few big projects, but there are thousands of a few $1,000 projects that need to be accomplished to bring us back to where we were before August 11th, whatever the date is. So-
Sounds like you're gonna busy beaver.
Huh?
Sounds like you're gonna be a busy beaver.
Public Works and Stone and
Flat out.
other local contractors, ONG, they're all gonna be very busy. I was in Vermont. Vermont had 3 floods comparable to Southbury's in different parts of the state this summer, and you can't find a excavation contractor anywhere in the state to work because they're so busy, just recovering from these floods that you get these lines of storms and they attack local geographies in a ferocious way. That seems to be
The hills of New
happening
England.
on a regular basis
Yeah.
these days.
And just to keep everyone on this board, apprised of what River Road, we budgeted $600,000. It looks like that's gonna come in about $460,000. And because we got River Road open, Purchase Brook Bridge is gonna be about $100,000 savings between, construction and engineering because we were able to get River Road open in 2 directions. So another great job.
Over $1 million.
Another great job by our Public Works Department.
Nice to have, we use some good news. RUPAC, we have not met since our last meeting. I don't think we have. Strategic plan, John, anything?
Yeah, strategic planning, which had, the operation of that committee or commission had been in limbo for a while because its chairman had resigned and they had not been meeting. They did have a meeting this past week. And what is happening there is that a whole load, 4 or 5 of the members' appointments expired. The town committees, the town political committees have not yet made any recommendations to fill those positions. Therefore, they remain vacant. there are now 6 remaining members. 4 of those positions will expire at the end of this year. So unless the political parties come in and give recommendations to the first selectman and the Board of Selectmen, they'll be down to 2. And there, as I've said to you before, there are some issues here on how that commission operates in conjunction with town management. And there will be some recommendations, I believe, going before the Charter Revision Commission to address that. So as of now, and at the last meeting, they made no decisions. They had some conversation about how to proceed, but they've made no decisions or recommendations, and I do not know when they're going to meet for the next time.
Energy Task Force, Tom?
Yeah, we met once over the summer, and we're meeting tomorrow night. The focus, since, I talked about last time about how we decided not to do the carport for various reasons, but the focus has been in discussion again with Jeff and Blake about putting up a much more extensive piece over at the transfer station. That would, and so we got sort of rough estimates about that, and to get sort of better estimates, we would put out an RFP, and I think that's what we're gonna look at tomorrow night, is look an RFP to look at, what it would take to put up a much more extensive thing at the transfer station that would provide more power than we need for the town, but ideally maybe turn into either some, like a cell tower kind of annuity or of some sort. But it seems like better bang for the buck. It'd be a lot of investment to own it, but there's also maybe PPA or lease agreement things we could get involved with. But we just want to get some good quotes around that. So rather than pursue another carport at this time.
More later.
Yeah.
We'll expect monthly updates, if possible. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
ARPA, Dan?
ARPA, we have a task force meeting tomorrow night to reallocate the $1.5 million that was dedicated to Pierce's Hollow Village. So other than that, we have, after that 1.5, we have about a little under $200,000 remaining in funding. One of which, no, it's allocated. It's just we have to. One of the questions I had today, I met with the new park and rec directors, is the splash pad. And speaking with our public works director, we may not be able to do a splash pad for the money that's allocated to it. So we may look at other areas that can help park and rec with that money. And one of the suggestions was redoing the basketball court at Valentine Park. Tennis courts at Community Park, that will be a FEMA, yeah, it'll be a FEMA.
Okay, that's it. It is appropriate to add to the agenda anything we need to pay attention to. I'm not aware of anything, but we can. Is there anything that needs to be added to the agenda? If not, we are adjourned. I think I'm supposed to do it that way, finally, after these years. And October 21st, we'll be here with the pension actuary people.
Yeah, the actuarial people will be here.
Okay.
And then we'll be